You step quietly onto the cracked stones of a forgotten temple, the moonlight casting long shadows that seem to whisper secrets around you. The air is cooler here, with a faint scent of moss and dust drifting upward from the crevices. It feels like you've slipped out of the ordinary world and into a place that's been waiting for centuries, patient, silent, and just a little amused that someone has finally come back. The wind moves gently through broken columns, creating a low hum that almost sounds like the temple itself is trying to sing. You wouldn't believe the stories these walls could tell if they spoke, though perhaps it's better they keep their mysteries for now. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere far away, let me know in the comments, what's your location and what time of night is it for you? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The temple stones beneath your feet are cracked but still aligned, as if the builders knew some secret way of making time hesitate. The floor feels uneven, warm in one spot where moonlight lingers, cool in another where shadow claims the stone. You trace the outline of a fallen pillar, and as your fingertips slide across its surface, you feel the faint ripple of chisel marks. Imagine hands long ago, striking the rock in rhythm, each blow a note in a song that built this place. Researchers still argue that temples like these were aligned with stars, with solstices, or with gods that no one remembers by name. Standing here, you feel all three answers could be true, and maybe more. A faint sound stirs from deeper inside. At first, it seems like water dripping, then like the echo of a voice just beyond your reach. You step forward, invisible yet strangely seen, as if the temple itself knows you're here. Moss clings to the edges of carvings, swirls, spirals, and the faint impression of an animal form whose identity has blurred with time. A bird, a jackal, or maybe something that doesn't exist anymore. That's the fun part of ruins, isn't it? They leave enough space for imagination to slip in where history has cracked away. The ceiling above you has partly collapsed, but a single lintel stone still bridges two walls. It is impossibly large, weighing more than any modern crane could easily lift, and yet it balances there, unmoved by centuries of storms. Archaeologists often debate how such massive blocks were lifted into place. Some say ramps, some suggest wooden rollers. A few quietly propose techniques we've forgotten involving water, sound, or even something stranger. Standing in the moonlight, you can almost picture ropes creaking, shouts echoing, and dozens of bodies straining together, all to place one stone where it still rests tonight. The smell here is layered: cool earth, faint ash, and the unmistakable sweetness of night-blooming flowers creeping along the cracks. As you breathe in, time feels slippery, like the air itself remembers rituals that once filled this temple. You catch yourself imagining the glow of torches, the chanting of voices, and the sudden silence when those voices stopped. Did the rituals end willingly, or were they abandoned in haste? No one knows for certain, but the stones remember. Stones always remember. You glance upward and notice that the moonlight falls in a neat shaft across the broken altar at the center of the chamber. It feels intentional, as if even in ruin, the design holds. Researchers still argue that many temples were designed to track celestial movements: sun, moon, even Venus. This one, though, holds its alignment despite centuries of wear. The light seems too precise to be chance. If you squint, it looks almost like the moonbeam is a finger pointing, guiding you to notice something. And you do. A faint spiral carving, half hidden under the altar's edge, catches the glow. Spirals repeat across so many ancient cultures. Were they symbols of water, or life, or cycles of rebirth? Perhaps all three. You lean closer, brushing invisible fingertips across the shallow groove. The surface feels smoother here, as if touched by many hands before. You wonder how many people pressed their palms into the same pattern, hoping for blessings, or simply marveling at the shape. Somewhere between the spiral and the stone, you sense a question that was asked long ago, but never answered. The silence deepens, heavy, yet oddly comforting. The longer you stand in this place, the more it feels like time has slowed. A minute stretches into an hour. The drip of water echoes endlessly. The moonbeam seems frozen in place. You can almost believe you've slipped out of time altogether. And perhaps that's the real gift of ruins. They're not just reminders of the past, but doorways into a softer rhythm, one that lulls you toward rest. Your eyes wander back to the doorway where shadows shift as if something or someone passed by. You know nothing is there, but the thought lingers. The temple feels alive, not with people, but with presence. Maybe it's the way the stones echo sound, or maybe it's something else. That faint spiral under the altar seems to hum with a memory you can't quite catch. You leave it unresolved, letting the question rest like a seed in your mind. For now, you drift deeper into the ruins, following the path of moonlight that seems to lead you onward. The temple breathes behind you, its mysteries intact, its silence echoing softly in your ears. Somewhere in the distance, new stones are waiting. The moonlight you followed from the temple stretches into an open field, and when you lift your gaze, the stones of Stonehenge rise out of the mist like sentinels caught mid-thought. They stand in their familiar ring, heavy yet graceful, worn but unbowed. You drift closer, unnoticed, as if you've slipped past centuries of fences and signs, walking among the stones the way people once did without restriction. The ground beneath your feet is soft with dew, cool against the edges of your imagination, and the air carries the faint metallic tang of wet grass. Somewhere in the distance, an owl gives a low call, echoing through the circle as if answering the stones themselves. The closer you move, the more the stones change. By daylight, they appear gray and weathered, but under moonlight, they seem alive, glowing faintly as though lit from within. You brush invisible fingers across one surface, feeling the grooves and lichen, the roughness catching at your touch. It's here that researchers still argue about origins. Some insist Stonehenge was a calendar, others claim it was a sacred burial ground, and a few propose it was never one thing at all, but many, shifting with each generation that used it. Standing here now, you feel that debate in the stones themselves. They are neither calendar nor tomb, but a chorus of possibilities that time has refused to silence. A breeze stirs, carrying the faint scent of chalky earth, and with it comes a strange sound. At first, it's nothing more than wind whistling through gaps, but then it seems to bend into tones, low, long, almost like a horn being played in the distance. Some visitors say Stonehenge hums when the wind is right, the stones acting like the pipes of an organ. Tonight, the hum is soft, more like a whisper, a vibration you don't hear so much as feel in your chest. It lulls you, steady and patient, like the earth itself, taking a deep breath. You pause at the center of the ring, where the altar stone lies flat, shadow stretched long across it. Researchers note that its placement aligns with solstices, a precise connection between earth and sky. And yet, there's something more curious. Tiny chips of greenstone found nearby, not native to this part of England. They came from Wales, miles and miles away, dragged here across rivers, hills, and plains. How did they do it without wheels or beasts of burden strong enough to manage? Wooden rollers? Rafts? Some propose ice carried them part of the way. Others lean toward sheer human persistence. Still, the stones seem almost too heavy for effort alone. You wonder, as many do, if there was some forgotten trick, a rhythm, a vibration, a technology lost to the ages. As you drift between the uprights, you notice markings barely visible under the moss, small circles and depressions cut into the stone, known as cup marks. No one agrees what they mean. Some say they are star maps. Others think they are offerings, depressions filled with liquid during rituals. The longer you look, the more they appear like constellations, a night sky carved into rock. You catch yourself tilting your head back to the real sky above, and for a moment, it seems the marks on the stone echo the very stars you're staring at. Was this intentional or just coincidence? The thought drifts unanswered, and maybe that's best. It keeps the wonder alive. Time feels hazy here. The mist curls low, blurring the edges of the stones, making them look taller, stranger, like doorways rather than monuments. You walk through one, half expecting to emerge in another world. Instead, you emerge into silence, but not disappointment. The silence is thick, almost tactile, as if brushing across your skin like soft fabric. Your mind wanders to myths of giants, tales told in hushed voices. Some legends claim giants carried the stones from faraway lands. Others whisper of druids performing rites here, though evidence of druids at Stonehenge is scarce at best. Still, the image of white-robed figures chanting in the fog is hard to shake. Maybe myths survive because they feel true in ways facts never fully capture. As you linger, your eyes drift to one fallen stone lying at an angle. It has been resting this way for centuries, yet it feels as though it only toppled yesterday. You wonder if the ground trembled when it fell, if it startled grazing animals, if someone watched in sorrow or relief. That stone, even in collapse, carries its mystery forward. Why did some stones remain upright while others fell? Was it chance or some subtle imbalance waiting to reveal itself? The hum in the air grows faint, as if the wind itself is easing into rest. You take one last glance back at the circle, noticing how the stones frame the horizon. At midsummer, the sun would rise directly over the heelstone, perfectly aligned, as though the entire monument had been built just for that moment. Even now, long after its builders have vanished, the stones keep their vigil, marking time in ways more patient than clocks. The mist thickens, curling around your feet like a slow tide, and the circle begins to fade behind a veil of silver. You drift onward, invisible steps carrying you away, yet the hum lingers faintly in your chest, as if you've carried the piece of the stones with you. Ahead, the ground dips, and a darker passage waits, an opening into the earth that smells faintly of cool limestone and dust, leading you toward chambers no sunlight ever touched. The mist around Stonehenge folds inward, curling like smoke into a hidden passage, and when you step through, the scent of chalk and grass dissolves into dry dust and stone. The air is heavier here, warmer, with a faint bitterness, like old paper left too long in the sun. You glance up, and suddenly the massive bulk of the Great Pyramid looms above you, its edges dark against the night sky, a silhouette so immense that it seems to tilt the stars around it. You drift closer, unnoticed, slipping past tourists and guards as if time itself has bent to give you this private moment. The ground crunches beneath your feet, gravel, sand, and bits of eroded stone scattered along the base. The pyramid's surface, once smooth with polished limestone, is now jagged, rough blocks, catching moonlight in broken facets. Yet even in ruin, the structure feels impossibly precise. You let your hand brush across one block, sensing its chill, rough enough to catch the skin if you weren't careful. Archaeologists still argue whether copper chisels, pounding stones, or some lost technique cut these megaliths so neatly. Theories pile up, but certainty never arrives. A narrow passage opens ahead, the descending corridor that leads into the heart of the pyramid. The air grows cooler as you slip inside, the sounds of the desert fading until only your breath and the echo of your steps remain. The walls close around you, smooth in some places, pitted in others, with faint red ochre marks lingering like ghost signatures from builders long gone. You imagine them working in torchlight, smoke staining the ceiling as they carved their way into stone meant to outlast empires. The passage tilts downward, and with it comes a scent of minerals, dampness, and something metallic, like rust, though no iron should be here. You pause at the entrance of the so-called Queen's Chamber, a silent, empty room whose angled roof feels like a giant tent frozen in rock. Nothing here reveals purpose. No treasures, no inscriptions, no bodies. Researchers still argue whether it was truly meant as a burial place, a symbolic chamber, or a hidden device we don't yet understand. The silence seems almost deliberate, as if daring you to make up your own answer. You press onward, deeper, into the grand gallery. The ceiling vaults high above you, steep and narrow, stone blocks stacked with such precision that you can hardly slip a nail between them. Your footsteps echo in a rhythm that feels too regular, like a drumbeat carved into the corridor itself. Some believe this gallery once amplified sound during rituals, the shape deliberately designed to create resonance. You hum softly, and the vibration stretches farther than you expect, carrying down the passage like a faint song. For a moment, it feels as though the pyramid is singing back. At the end of the gallery lies the king's chamber, built from massive granite blocks hauled from quarries hundreds of miles away. You run your hand along one block, marveling at its polished surface, almost glossy despite its age. In the center of the room rests the famous granite sarcophagus, lidless and empty. You lean closer, feeling its rough interior. No body was ever found here, no treasures either. Some argue it was plundered, others that it was never meant for burial at all. The granite itself hums faintly, a vibration felt more in your bones than your ears, as though the stone still remembers the labor of being dragged across the desert and placed with impossible care. You glance upward and notice the air shafts, narrow tunnels cut into the chamber walls, aligned not just with the outside, but with specific stars. One points toward Orion's belt, another toward Sirius, linking Earth and sky with precision too sharp to be accident. Researchers still argue whether these shafts were symbolic, meant to guide the soul of the pharaoh into the heavens, or whether they served a practical function, perhaps airflow or something stranger. The truth remains sealed within their narrow, dark throats. As you linger, the chamber feels less like a tomb and more like a machine, each block and passage serving some purpose beyond human burial. Some modern thinkers suggest the pyramid itself was an energy device, capturing or amplifying natural forces. Others dismiss the idea as fanciful, but standing here, you can't help but feel the geometry hum, the walls pressing in, not with weight, but with intention. Time blurs, stretching thin. The flicker of torches you imagined earlier feels suddenly real. Shadows moving across the chamber, even though no flame burns. You step closer to the sarcophagus and notice faint scratches along its edge. They don't look decorative, more like accidental marks, workers testing tools, or perhaps something else. You lean in, and for just a second, the scratches seem to align into a spiral, the same shape you noticed back in the ruined temple. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe a quiet thread, tying places and times together, weaving ruins into one long story. The air grows cooler, a faint draft brushing across your cheek. It carries a smell like fresh stone, sharp and earthy, hinting at deeper chambers not yet reached. There are rumors of hidden voids detected by scanning equipment, vast spaces untouched for millennia. What lies within them, artifacts, knowledge, or just emptiness, remains unknown. The pyramid holds its secrets tightly, releasing only whispers to those who listen closely. You stand in the stillness, letting the silence press down, steady and heavy like a weighted blanket. Your mind drifts, lulled by the rhythm of stone, by the unchanging geometry around you. Then, from somewhere deep below, you hear it, a sound like a single drop of water, echoing in chambers that no one has walked for thousands of years. You lean forward, straining to catch more, but the sound dissolves into silence, leaving you with nothing but questions. Slowly, you turn back toward the gallery, the pyramid walls closing softly around you as you retreat. The air grows warmer as you climb upward, your steps lighter, as though the pyramid itself has let you go. When you emerge, the desert night greets you with open sky, stars glittering sharp and endless above the horizon, and just beyond the shadow of the pyramid, the outline of trees emerges, a jungle edge waiting, vines curling, calling you toward another set of ruins where the air hums differently, alive with insects and echoes. The desert fades behind you as if it were only a dream, and when you step forward, the air shifts, warm, wet, and heavy with the scent of greenery. The stars above are softer now, blurred through drifting clouds, and the low hum of the jungle surrounds you. Crickets, frogs, and the distant call of unseen birds weave a constant rhythm, a song that never quite ends. Vines twist upward, wrapping themselves around ancient stones, and suddenly the outline of a Mayan temple rises through the canopy, jagged yet majestic. You drift closer, your steps silent on the moss-slick ground. The pyramid of stone looms, its steps steep, edges softened by centuries of roots and rain. Torches once burned here, guiding processions to the top, but now only fireflies hover in their place, tiny sparks of light drifting lazily through the night air. You pause, listening. At first, you hear only insects, then, faintly, something else, a distant echo, like chanting carried through layers of leaves. You blink, and it's gone, swallowed by the night, leaving behind only the feeling that voices were here a moment ago. The stones beneath your fingers are damp, almost slippery, carved with faint glyphs, worn down rain. You trace one spiral symbol, oddly familiar, like the carving beneath the altar, back in the ruined temple. Spirals again. Were they a code? A prayer? Or just a pattern the human mind finds comforting? Researchers still argue about the meaning of Mayan glyphs that remain untranslated. Some symbols speak of kings, gods, or cycles of time. Others, no one can quite agree on. You smile faintly, amused at how entire careers are spent on single glyphs, while the jungle doesn't seem to mind at all. Climbing the temple steps feels like ascending into another time. The jungle's noise grows muted with each step upward, replaced by the whistle of wind against stone. You reach a broad platform at the top, where the view opens wide, trees stretching in every direction, broken only by the shadow of another temple in the distance. You can almost imagine smoke rising between them, connecting one to the other like silent messages. A stone altar sits at the center, cracked but still holding its place. You lean closer and notice channels carved into the surface, grooves where liquid once ran. Researchers still argue whether these channels were purely ceremonial, symbolic of rainwater and fertility, or whether they carried something else. Whatever flowed here, it has long since dried, leaving only dark stains impossible to date. The smell of damp stone mixes with a faint metallic tang that lingers despite the centuries. From this high vantage point, the temple seems to hum, not with voices, but with time itself. The Mayans tracked the heavens with a precision that rivals modern astronomy. Some say this pyramid, like many others, was aligned to mark equinoxes or solstices. Imagine the moment, the sun rising perfectly at the edge, light cutting across the altar in a sharp beam, time and sky intersecting in stone. You can almost see it, the crowd gathered below, waiting, holding their breath until the moment came. As you linger, fireflies drift closer, drawn to the high platform. Their glow reflects in your eyes, soft pulses of gold against the dark. For a moment, it feels like stars have descended from the sky, blurring the line between heavens and earth. The air thickens, heavy and still, and in that stillness, another sound emerges, a low echo from within the temple itself. It rolls upward, bouncing along the stairs, like a whisper in stone. You lean forward, straining to hear, but the sound folds back into the jungle's chorus, indistinguishable from frogs and wind. Legends here speak of gods who demanded offerings, gods who sent rain or withheld it. Some stories say the pyramids were gateways, places where the sky opened and gods stepped through. Others whisper that they were built to keep the world in balance, stone by stone, sacrifice by sacrifice. The myths are tangled, contradictory, yet oddly consistent in one thing. The temples mattered far beyond their physical presence. They were not just buildings, but instruments in a cosmic song. The night deepens and clouds drift aside, revealing the moon. Its pale light falls across the altar, and once again, you notice the spiral motif carved faintly into the stone surface. Not just one this time, but many, interlocking, almost moving if you stare long enough. You blink, and they seem to blur, like ripples spreading in water. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of wet leaves and something smoky, as though a fire once burned here and refuses to leave entirely. The spiral carvings leave you unsettled, not in fear, but in curiosity. Why do they appear in so many places, across such distant cultures? Coincidence? Shared memory? Or something else connecting minds across continents? The question lingers, unanswered, hanging in the humid night like mist. Time slips again. One moment you're standing on the platform, the next you're moving down the steps, fireflies trailing behind you like quiet lanterns. The jungle wraps close once more, vines brushing your shoulders, roots tugging at your path. A rustle of leaves follows you, but when you glance back, there is nothing, only shadows shifting where no one stands. You press on, invisible, drawn toward a darker opening, a descent carved into earth itself. The air grows cooler, drier, carrying the smell of limestone and silence. An underground city waits, hollow and patient. The jungle closes behind you like a curtain, and in its place, the ground yawns open. A staircase descends into darkness, each step carved by hands that worked not in daylight, but in the cool silence below. The air shifts, cooler now, tinged with the dry scent of stone and something older still. Dust, minerals, echoes. You step downward, and the night above fades until only the memory of fireflies lingers, replaced by the hush of the underground. The tunnel widens, walls curving like the inside of a throat, until suddenly you emerge into a vast chamber. Lamps once hung here, though now only niches remain, carved to hold clay bowls of flame. Yet the walls are smooth, deliberate, shaped by design rather than chance. This is no cave. This is a city, hollowed out of rock, layer upon layer, spreading beneath your feet in silence. You move forward slowly, invisible steps brushing ancient dust. The ceiling arches high, held by columns, left uncarved to support the weight of the world above. You imagine hundreds, maybe thousands, living here at once. Families, animals, water flowing through stone channels. Entire lives carried out in darkness, hidden from the sun. Some say Derinkuyu, the great underground city, could hold 20,000 souls. Imagine their laughter, their fears, their whispered songs, all swallowed now by silence. Narrow corridors branch off the chamber, sloping deeper, lined with circular stone doors that could be rolled into place to seal passages. They still sit here, massive discs of rock, balanced and waiting as though their guardians only stepped away for a moment. You pause, staring at one. It bears a carved cross, faint but visible, a reminder of later times when Christians used these tunnels to hide from persecution. Before them, perhaps Hittites or Phrygians, carving deeper and deeper, leaving layer upon layer of history inside the earth. Your fingers brush the wall, cool and slightly rough. Scratch marks linger where tools once bit into stone, thousands of them, the rhythm of 1,000 chisels echoing in your imagination. The corridors tighten, then widen again, opening into chambers large enough to hold livestock or entire gatherings. Ventilation shafts pierce the stone, so cleverly designed that air flows freely, even 10 floors below ground. You breathe deeply, the air surprisingly fresh, as if the city is still alive. A trickle of water runs somewhere nearby. Following it, you find a small well, dug deep into the bedrock. The surface shimmers faintly in the dim light, disturbed only by the occasional drip. You crouch, gazing into it. Your reflection stares back, blurred, then shifts. For an instant, another face seems to ripple through. Broad features, hair tied back, eyes dark and searching. You blink, and the water stills, reflecting only emptiness. Deeper corridors slope downward again. The sound of your own breath becomes louder in the confined space, almost intrusive. As you walk, you notice symbols etched lightly into the walls, not crosses this time, but spirals again, the same curling lines you traced on temple stones far away, now appearing in the heart of this underground world. You pause, unsettled. Why here? Why always spirals? The pattern whispers of connection, threads tying cultures that never met. Some believe Derinkuyu was not built merely for hiding, but for surviving something greater, famine, invasion, perhaps even events beyond human control. The stories drift, a flood, a fire from the sky, gods who raged and punished. People carried their lives beneath the earth, sealing themselves away, waiting for the danger to pass. How long did they stay? Weeks? Months? Years? Entire generations might have lived and died here, never seeing the stars. You wander into another chamber, this one vast, domed, almost cathedral-like. The acoustics are strange. When you shift your weight, the sound rolls outward, magnified, as if the walls themselves are listening. You whisper a single word, and it carries, doubling, tripling, until it returns to you as a chorus. Your voice becomes many voices, or perhaps not only yours. For a moment, you hear something else layered within the echo. A chant, low and rhythmic, too measured to be random. You freeze, listening harder, but the sound folds back into silence, leaving your skin tingling. The underground city feels empty, yet not abandoned. Shadows seem thicker here, lingering in corners your eyes cannot quite reach. You drift onward, deeper still, until the tunnel forks. One path slopes further into shadow, while the other curves upward toward faint light. You hesitate, then choose the downward slope. The spiral carvings appear more often here, clustered, overlapping, as if someone, or many, were compelled to draw them endlessly. Your hand hovers above one spiral, tracing its curve in the air. As you do, the stone feels warmer, as if heat lingers within the carving itself. The corridor ends in a circular chamber, bare and silent except for one object, a stone pillar standing in the center, carved smooth. Its surface glimmers faintly with mineral veins, catching what little light filters in. The spirals cover it entirely, winding around and around until they vanish into the floor. You lean closer, dizzy for a moment, the carvings pulling your eyes deeper, as if they are not flat but bottomless. You blink, shaking it off, stepping back. The pillar hums faintly beneath your hand, so faint it could be your imagination, or perhaps the vibration of the earth itself. You cannot tell. What you do know is that this place feels older than the city around it, as if the builders discovered the pillar rather than carving it, a relic from before. The silence thickens until it presses on your ears. Then, without warning, a distant thud echoes through the tunnels, deep and metallic. Once, twice, then gone. You straighten, alert, but no sound follows. The city holds its breath. So do you. When you finally move again, the path ahead narrows, leading further down. You do not know how many layers this city holds, only that it goes deeper than you imagined. Step by step, the spiral symbols guide you, glowing faintly in your memory, until the air shifts once more, colder now, sharper, as though you are approaching something untouched for millennia. The underground swallows you whole, and you descend toward the unknown. The cold breath of the underground fades as you climb once more, and suddenly the weight of earth gives way to the salt sting of wind. You blink against sudden brightness, though the sky is soft with clouds. Before you stretches an island, its slopes rising green against the vastness of the Pacific. Waves crash at the cliffs below, sending up sprays that shimmer like glass dust in the light. The air is alive here, restless, carrying the distant cries of seabirds and the faint tang of volcanic soil. You step onto grass damp with sea mist, and at once you notice them. Figures scattered across the hills, massive and silent, faces carved of volcanic tuff, lined with patience, eyes deep set as though watching an endless horizon. Some stand tall, weathered, yet proud, while others lie fallen, half buried, as if the earth is slowly reclaiming them. Their expressions are not angry nor kind, but something in between, an unspoken seriousness, as though they carry secrets too heavy to share. The Moai of Rapa Nui. You drift closer to one, its head rising nearly 3 stories high, shadow long upon the grass. Up close, the surface is rough, pitted by centuries of rain and wind, yet still remarkably human. A long nose, strong jaw, lips pressed as though holding back words. You wonder what it would sound like if the statue spoke. Would it be a whisper like the tunnels of daring Kuyu, or a roar carried by ocean wind? You wouldn't believe the stories these faces could tell if they ever broke their silence. Some of the Moai stand on stone platforms called ahu, their bases fitted tightly, the craft precise. Archaeologists still argue whether the statues were walked upright across the island by ropes and coordination, or dragged horizontally across rough terrain. The debate lingers, unresolved. Researchers still argue that the exact method of transportation remains one of archaeology's stubborn mysteries. You recall softly to yourself, and you picture the scene. Hundreds of people singing, pulling ropes, guiding these giants step by step, the earth shaking with every move. You wander further inland, where unfinished moai lie carved into the volcanic quarry of Rano Raraku. Their bodies are trapped in the slopes, frozen in the act of emerging. Some are only half-shaped, faces staring upward from stone beds as though caught between sleep and waking. Others are enormous, far larger than those transported, as if ambition once stretched beyond reason. You run your hand along one rough cheek, dust clinging to your invisible skin, and for a moment you feel the effort behind every strike of the tool. Thousands upon thousands of strikes, echoing across years. The wind carries the scent of smoke. You turn, imagining the island centuries ago, alive with firelight and chants, canoes along the shore, families gathered in the glow. For a brief time, Rapa Nui thrived, a complex society building monuments against the backdrop of isolation. Yet the land is fragile, its soil thin. Some say the people cut too many trees, exhausting resources until famine struck. Others whisper of conflict, toppled statues, even darker tales. And still, others argue these stories are exaggerations, shaped more by outsiders than by the islanders themselves. The debate hums beneath the surface of the grass, unresolved. All that remains are these stone guardians, hundreds of them, keeping their gaze fixed on something beyond the reach of your sight. You climb towards the crest of a hill. From here, the line of statues stretches outward like sentinels, their backs to the sea, their faces turned inland, as though protecting the people, or perhaps watching them. Only a few look outward toward the waves, standing alone at the edge of cliffs. You pause beside one of these, wind whipping your hair, sea roaring below. Its gaze is endless, fixed on horizons you cannot see, as if waiting for something or someone to return. A sudden gust rattles the grass at your feet. In its hiss, you think you hear a faint laugh, dry, amused, as if the statues themselves share a secret joke. Perhaps it's at the expense of those who still argue about their purpose. Perhaps they know and simply refuse to say. Your eyes drift back to the quarry. There, on the slope, a spiral symbol has been carved faintly into the stone beside an unfinished statue. At first, you think it must be modern graffiti, yet its edges are weathered, softened by time. The same spiral that followed you in the tunnels beneath Derinkuyu. The same curve you traced among Mayan stones. It appears again here, thousands of miles from anywhere else, as if stitched across the earth by an invisible hand. You kneel, studying it. The spiral twists inward, drawing your gaze, and for a moment the world tilts. The statues seem taller, their shadows stretching farther, their eyes gleaming with hidden light. The sound of the waves fades, replaced by a deep hum beneath the ground, faint but steady, like the heartbeat of the island itself. You blink, and it passes, leaving only the wind and the crash of surf. The sky darkens slightly, clouds rolling in, their edges tinged with red as the sun lowers. Shadows lengthen, merging with one another, until the statues seem to lean closer. You stand, brushing the damp grass, and begin walking along the line of Moai, their silent company both comforting and strange. At the far edge of the island, you find a cave mouth facing the sea. Inside, the walls are painted with faded designs, birds with long beaks, strange symbols, red and white patterns. You trace one bird shape with your eyes, recalling the old birdman cult, where competitors once raced for eggs from nearby islets to claim leadership. A society's future resting on fragile shells, retrieved through danger and waves. You imagine the cheers, the prayers, the tension, all fading now into echoes. The cave narrows, leading you toward another opening. You step through, and once again, the ocean greets you, endless and restless, its voice louder now. Yet beneath the crash and hiss of waves, another sound threads through, a low vibration, almost too deep to hear. It reminds you of the hum within the pillar underground, the echo in the chamber that multiplied your whisper. The connection stirs uneasily, wrapping around you like the sea wind. The statues remain still, their faces impassive. But as you turn, you can't shake the feeling that one of them has shifted ever so slightly, its gaze following your path. The ocean stretches out before you, and with each blink of spray and foam, the horizon blurs. When the mist clears, you are no longer standing among the moai. The salt wind is thicker now, carrying with it the scent of coral and seaweed, and beneath your feet, the earth has changed. Stone platforms rising directly from the water. Canals flow between them, dark and still, as though the tide itself is reluctant to disturb the silence. You drift forward, your steps echoing softly against basalt blocks stacked in neat, impossible layers. Each stone is massive, elongated like logs, their edges resting one atop another as if some giant hand had arranged them with casual precision. Nan Madol, the city built upon water, a place some have called the Venice of the Pacific. Though its mood is far heavier, its silence deeper. No gondolas glide here, only the lapping of seawater against stone, steady as a heartbeat. The blocks beneath you are volcanic basalt, each weighing several tons. Researchers still argue how they were transported across miles of ocean without wheels, beasts of burden, or metal tools. Some claim rafts and clever engineering. Others whisper of forgotten techniques, levitation, perhaps, or a force lost to time. You brush your hand along the surface. The stone is rough, streaked with salt, still cold from centuries of waves. You cross one canal, pausing to watch small fish dart through the shadows. Their scales flicker silver like sparks against the dark water. For a moment, you imagine the city alive again, fires burning on the platforms, voices calling across the waterways, canoes sliding silently beneath the stars. The sound almost reaches you now, faint but insistent, as though the city remembers and is unwilling to let go. Legends of Nan Madol tell of twin sorcerer brothers who summoned the stones into place with chants, and dragons stacking them as easily as driftwood. Other tales speak of rulers who demanded control, luring people here into isolation, their power balanced between sea and sky. And then, inevitably, whispers of curses, how the last ruler, too cruel, too ambitious, brought ruin upon himself, and how the city sank into abandonment, its stones left to hold their secrets in silence. You pause at one platform, broader than the rest, where walls rise in tall rectangles. The air here feels heavier, charged, as though the stones themselves are aware of your presence. Inside, the chamber smells of damp earth and salt, mingled with something faintly metallic. A tomb once stood here, holding rulers long forgotten. You lean against the stone, and the vibration hums faintly beneath your palm, so subtle you could mistake it for the sea. In the dim light, you notice something carved on the inner wall, not bold glyphs, but shallow scratches spiraling inward. Your breath stills. Again the spiral, curling into the stone, as though to remind you that no matter where you drift, it has already been. The curve catches the shadows of the chamber, bending them, making them seem to move when they should not. A breeze stirs across the water, though no leaves move here. The sound echoes down the canals, whispering like distant voices. You step outside again, and the platforms stretch outward, dozens of them, intersecting in a web of waterways that glimmer faintly under the rising moon. Time feels slippery here, the canals reflecting light as though they are mirrors into other centuries. For a moment, you see torches flicker, shadows of people moving across the stones. You blink, and only the fish remain. The longer you linger, the more the city seems alive, even in its silence. The walls lean slightly, as though listening. The water swirls in patterns, repeating shapes that dissolve when you try to fix them. It is not frightening, but it unsettles you, tugging at the edge of your thoughts, making you wonder if perhaps the city is unfinished, not because people abandoned it, but because it was never meant to end. Your path leads toward the far edge of the ruins, where the sea presses close. The water darkens here, almost black, its surface unbroken. The platforms are narrower, stacked higher, forming corridors where the tide echoes like footsteps. You press on, invisible, yet feeling as though something unseen drifts beside you. At the end of the corridor, the walls open to the sea, where waves push softly against the basalt. In the crevice of two stones, you see a small spiral, this one faintly glowing with salt crust, as though the ocean itself insists on keeping it alive. You trace its line with your gaze, and the world tilts again, the platforms stretching outward endlessly, canals weaving like veins, until the whole city resembles one great spiral curling into the ocean. You blink hard, and the vision softens. Only stone, water, and silence remain. Yet when you step away, you can't shake the sense that the city watched you, that it breathed with you, that your presence was recorded in the quiet ledger of its stones. The tide rises, gently brushing against the platform edges. You follow the pull of the current, moving with it as if the canals themselves guide you forward. Stone gives way to sand, sand gives way to rock, and soon the air changes once more, colder, sharper, carrying the dry scent of high mountains. A wall of peaks emerges ahead, crowned with snow, their silence deeper still. Another city waits, carved not upon water, but into the spine of the earth itself. The salt of Nan Madol fades from your skin as if rinsed by unseen hands, and the air grows thin, crisp, and edged with the scent of stone and snow. Mountains rise around you, jagged, immense, their peaks crowned in white, and their shadows stretching across valleys like sleeping giants. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, cobbled by ancient hands, and as you step forward, walls emerge from the earth. They are unlike anything you have touched before. Massive stones, each one taller than you, some weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together with a precision that seems almost arrogant. There is no mortar, no filler, just edges that kiss so closely you cannot slip a blade of grass between them. Sacsayhuaman, a fortress, or perhaps a stage, or perhaps something else entirely. The Quechua name rolls softly in your mind, though the place feels heavier than words. You drift closer, your hand brushing one of the giant blocks. Its surface is smooth, yet rippled faintly with the marks of shaping. How did they cut such stones, lift them, set them perfectly in place? Researchers still argue whether copper tools, ropes, and sheer determination were enough, or whether some knowledge has been lost, something that made the impossible routine. Standing here, it is hard not to suspect the latter. The stones are shaped in irregular polygons, locking into one another like puzzle pieces, a design not only aesthetic, but resistant to earthquakes. Centuries of tremors have failed to topple these walls. You run your fingers along the seams, so tight they feel like natural cracks, yet you know they are not. They are the work of hands, guided by vision, by some purpose now obscured. As you wander, the sound of the wind rises. It whistles through the gaps, echoing like flutes, as though the walls themselves play music when the mountain breathes. The tune is faint, uneven, but strangely soothing. You pause, listening. Then you notice. One of the blocks carries a carving, worn but visible. A spiral, cut shallow into the stone. Again, always again. You smile faintly, though the hair at the back of your neck stirs. Legends say Sacsayhuaman was built by giants, or by gods who shaped stone as easily as clay. Others insist it was the work of humans, a demonstration of patience beyond imagining. The truth, as always, slips between both stories, leaving only the walls themselves to speak. And they do speak, though not with words. They speak with weight, silence, and the stubborn fact of their survival. From the terrace, the view opens wide. Below lies Cusco, once the heart of the Inca Empire, its streets said to mirror the shape of a puma, with Sacsayhuaman forming the head. You look down upon it, and time ripples. The modern city blurs, replaced by visions of gold-covered temples, of processions in bright textiles, of drums echoing against the mountains. The sound is so vivid, you almost tap your foot to its rhythm until you blink and the present returns. Your path winds deeper into the fortress, where larger stones loom, some carved with steps leading nowhere, some with thrones cut directly into their bulk. You sit briefly upon one, the stone cool against you, and imagine Inca rulers seated here, surveying both their people and the sky. The sun was their god, the sky their calendar, and this place their stage. You can almost feel the hum of festivals long past, laughter carried on wind, chants that rolled like thunder. The wind shifts again, colder now, carrying a sound like grinding stone. You glance back, nothing moves, yet the wall seems subtly different, as if one block has settled into a new position. Of course, it hasn't. Or perhaps it has, in ways your eyes cannot measure. Researchers still argue whether Sacsayhuaman was primarily a fortress, a ceremonial site, or something more enigmatic. Some see military strength in its height, others see astronomical alignments in its layout. You see both and more. You see a puzzle that was never meant to be solved completely, only to be lived within. The sun lowers and shadows climb the walls. They twist into shapes you cannot quite name, stretching across seams, bending across stones. One shadow curls into a spiral, dark against pale rock, and for a moment you wonder if the pattern is in your eyes, or if the stones themselves are arranging light to keep the symbol alive. As night deepens, the fortress cools, its stones radiating back the day's warmth in slow pulses like a sleeping creature. You step lightly through its terraces, each block taller than you, each seam a reminder of precision that defies time. You imagine the builders laughing quietly at modern debates, amused that anyone could question what they knew so deeply in their bones. At the far end of the wall, a narrow passage descends, lined with carved steps. You follow, the air cooling with each step downward. The sound of the wind fades, replaced by dripping water, the scent of dampness. The passage opens into a cavern carved directly from stone, its ceiling glittering with mineral veins. You glance upward, and for a moment, the glitter forms shapes, lines and spirals, a map across darkness. The spiral follows you still, waiting, always waiting, its curve pulling you deeper into the stone. The cavern's glittering ceiling fades like embers cooling in the dark, and as you step forward, the air warms, dry and sharp with a scent of dust and sand. The mountain around you dissolves, replaced by canyon walls rising high on either side, their surfaces glowing a deep rose under the sun. Narrow and winding, the path squeezes between cliffs, a passage carved not by hands but by water over ages. Your footsteps are muffled, the silence broken only by the occasional whisper of wind funneled through the stone. You follow the winding gorge until it opens suddenly, dramatically, into light. There, framed between cliffs, stands a facade so breathtaking it almost doesn't feel real. Columns, pediments, and statues, all carved directly into the sandstone, rise before you in a monumental display. The treasury of Petra. Its surface glows pink and gold in the shifting sun, every line sharp yet softened by centuries of weather. It is both fragile and eternal, standing silent as though holding its breath. You step closer, brushing your fingers against the carved surface. The sandstone crumbles slightly, leaving a faint grit on your skin. It is delicate, eroded by time, yet the design still commands awe. Researchers still argue about its purpose. Temple, tomb, treasury? The truth remains elusive. It is as though Petra itself enjoys keeping its secrets. The city stretches beyond, carved into cliffs in layers upon layers, facades, tombs, stairways, and halls, all hewn from the living rock. You wander through them, the silence growing heavier the deeper you go. Faint echoes follow you, as though your steps awaken memories buried in stone. You pause at one doorway, its threshold smoothed by centuries of feet that once passed through. The air inside is cooler, carrying the faint smell of earth mixed with something mineral, like dry iron. Petra was a city of trade, a crossroad where cultures met, Arab, Greek, Roman, and more. Its people, the Nabateans, mastered water in the desert, channeling it through hidden conduits, storing it in cisterns. You imagine the sound of flowing water, laughter in courtyards, markets filled with incense and silk. For a moment, you almost hear them, the hum of voices layered atop the desert wind. But the voices vanish quickly, leaving only the soft rasp of sand shifting under your feet. Legends whisper that Petra hides treasures, gold sealed within the treasury itself. Locals once fired upon it, hoping to release riches concealed inside, leaving pockmarks still visible on the facade. Yet nothing was ever found. Perhaps the real treasure was not gold at all, but knowledge, now dissolved into silence. You continue, climbing higher along the carved steps that snake into the cliffs. The effort is invisible to you, yet you feel the weight of it in your chest, the thin desert air pressing in. At the summit, you reach another monument, the monastery, larger than the treasury, its facade broad and commanding. Here, the wind howls more fiercely, carrying grains of sand that sting against the rock. You lean against one column, its surface rough and warm under the sun, and look out across the valley below. The desert stretches endlessly, pale and shimmering. The city below seems small, fragile, as though it could vanish under a single sweep of wind. You close your eyes, and time blurs. The valley fills with people again. Torches flicker along pathways. Chants rise from deep within the carved halls. For a moment, Petra is alive once more. You open your eyes, and only silence remains. Along one inner wall of the monastery, faint carvings linger, patterns, symbols half erased by centuries. You lean closer, tracing the shallow grooves. Among them, unmistakable, is a spiral, worn, faint, but there, the same mark that followed you from the jungle, the tunnels, the island, the fortress, always circling back. You pause, unsettled, yet strangely comforted. The spiral does not threaten. It simply exists, patient, as if waiting for you to notice. The sun begins to sink, shadows stretching across the cliffs, turning the rose-red stone into deep violet. The air cools quickly, carrying the faint smell of smoke from fires far beyond sight. As darkness grows, the silence deepens too, wrapping around you like a cloak. You step down from the heights, following a path that narrows once more into canyons. The walls press close, the last light of dusk barely reaching. The air grows cooler, damper, carrying a new scent, salt, faint, but unmistakable. You realize you're being led away from desert sands toward another mystery, one hidden beneath the weight of the sea itself. The narrow canyon fades into darkness, and when you emerge again, the world has changed. The air is heavier, tinged with the smell of salt and seaweed. The desert cliffs are gone, replaced by endless waves rolling under a sky the color of slate. You stand on a rocky shoreline, spray flecking your face, the roar of the ocean rising and falling like a living breath. Before you stretches the wide Pacific, calm on the surface, yet hiding untold mysteries beneath. A fishing boat drifts quietly offshore, forgotten nets swaying. But it is not the boat that draws you. Your gaze sinks lower, beyond the waves, into the shadowy blue depths. Something waits there, carved not by chance, but by hands long gone. You move soundlessly into the water, slipping beneath the surface. The sea closes around you in cold silence, muffling the roar of the world above. Shafts of light pierce the water, bending and scattering, illuminating shapes below. Massive stone blocks, steps cut with unnatural precision, terraces that drop away into the dark. The Yonaguni Monument. It rises from the seabed like a forgotten city, a colossal staircase descending into mystery. The blocks are sharp, their edges improbably straight for something claimed to be natural. You drift closer, brushing your hand against one edge. The stone is rough, with barnacles, cool against your touch, yet the line it forms is perfect, too perfect to be chance. Terraces and ledges unfold, each tier like a step in a ritual long lost. Narrow passageways twist between monoliths, as though guiding the unseen towards something deeper. At one point, a platform juts outward, its surface etched with patterns now blurred by erosion and coral. Were these marks once writing? Symbols of a forgotten people drowned by the sea? Or are they simply illusions carved by currents and time? You descend further, the light fading. Ahead, a shape looms larger than the rest, an immense face-like formation. The head, divers call it, with what seem to be eyes and a mouth staring blankly into eternity. Its gaze feels both empty and watching, as though the ocean itself borrowed stone to keep its secrets. Fish drift silently through cracks, flashing silver in dim light. The sound here is muted, just your breath, just the whisper of water moving around stone. You pause at a cavern, opening beneath one terrace, black and yawning like the mouth of the monument itself. Slowly, carefully, you pass inside. The cavern swallows you, the light behind shrinking to a faint glow. Inside, the water feels heavier, denser, as though pressing you deeper. The walls are smooth in places, angular in others, their lines echoing the spiral pattern once again. Carved into stone, faint but unmistakable, spirals curl along the passage, leading inward. You follow them until the passage narrows, then opens suddenly into a vast chamber. The ceiling arches high, beams of faint light filtering down through cracks above. In the center rises a great stone pillar, its surface worn but steady. Around its base, spirals converge, carved in countless layers. Some are crisp, recent by comparison, others nearly erased by time and tide. The spirals here no longer feel like symbols of mere chance. They seem deliberate, connecting all you have seen: jungle temples, desert tombs, mountain fortresses, island ruins, and now this city beneath the sea, a thread woven across civilizations, linking them beyond borders, beyond oceans, beyond death, always waiting for someone, perhaps for you, to notice. You drift closer, your hand brushing the pillar. The stone hums faintly, though perhaps it is only the echo of currents. For a heartbeat, the world tilts. You see flashes, Petra glowing in torchlight, the cavern ceiling glittering with stars of stone, the desert labyrinth stretching forever, the jungle temple rising through mist. You see them all as one, woven together like fragments of a single forgotten story. Then the vision fades, leaving only silence and the rhythm of your breath. The pillar is still, unmoving, the spirals quiet. But deep within, you feel the weight of an answer you cannot yet name. You turn, rising slowly back toward the surface. The chamber darkens behind you, its secrets sinking once more into silence. The water grows lighter, the surface closer, the sound of waves returning like an old memory. Breaking through, you inhale sharply, the air warm and salt-scented. The horizon stretches endless, the ocean shimmering under the moon. You float for a long moment, staring at the vastness around you. Nothing moves but the waves, carrying whispers of places still unseen, mysteries still waiting beneath earth and water. You realize then that the journey is not finished. Perhaps it never will be. The spirals are not destinations, but guides, leading you across ages and landscapes, urging you to keep searching, always searching. As the moonlight trembles across the sea, you drift silently, unseen, an eternal observer of the ruins left behind. The world sleeps, but its secrets remain awake, waiting for those who dare to wander. And now, as the sea settles around you and the voices of stone fade into stillness, you let yourself drift back, carried gently away from the ruins and into the calm of the present moment. The echoes of spirals linger faintly in your mind, but they no longer demand answers. They rest like soft impressions, reminders that the world holds more wonder than explanation. The air is cooler here, quieter. You can almost hear the faint rustle of wind across forgotten corridors, or the drip of water in some cavern far away. But each sound drifts off like a dream you cannot quite remember, dissolving into silence. It is the kind of silence that does not feel empty, but full, as if carrying the breath of countless centuries folded neatly into the night. Your body feels lighter now, as though the weight of stone and water has slipped from your shoulders. Each breath you take comes slower, easier, softer. With every exhale, the imagery fades a little more. The jagged cliffs of Petra, the polished walls of hidden tombs, the terraces beneath the sea, they remain with you, but no longer sharp, more like gentle sketches, blurred by time, softened by the edges of sleep. Perhaps, if you listen closely, you might still catch the faint hum of a pillar beneath the waves, or the whisper of spirals carved into rock. But these sounds no longer call you to wander. Instead, they reassure you, reminding you that the world keeps its mysteries safe until the next time you choose to look. The images begin to dim, like lanterns being lowered one by one. Shadows dissolve into quiet gray, and the spiral path that once wound through deserts, mountains, and oceans now curls inward, smaller and smaller, until it becomes nothing more than a soft circle of calm. You rest within it, unseen, at peace. Let the ruins fade for now. Let the ocean close its doors, the jungle seal its pathways, the desert hide its chambers. Once more, they will wait, they always do. And you are free to rest, to drift, to close your eyes. The mysteries remain, but tonight they belong not to explorers or researchers or wandering shadows. Tonight they belong to your dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.